Ladies and gentlemen, I came up with this concept one day a few years ago when I was driving to work. And yes, Tom, I did used to work. But I was listening to a country and western station. A song came on about a gentleman driving through the city to a red light district with all the billboards and the signs. He had his 5-year-old son with him. And the little boy said, "Daddy, what do those signs say? What do all those X's mean?" And the man thought, what do you say at a time like this? Now, if you can figure out the answer and get it copyrighted, you can live off the royalties. But it may not be so easy, because I'm going to give you 3 different scenarios. They all involve families. Now, you may not have any children, but you probably know somebody who has some children, and maybe they've had to face one of these scenarios, or would come up in the future. Fortunately, I haven't had to face any of those scenarios. But let's take a look at the first one. Your grade school son comes home from school with a note from the teacher. He's flunking. Or he may even be suspended or expelled because the teacher caught him cheating. So you start to talk to the boy and you say, "You know, you shouldn't cheat. You don't learn anything by cheating. Cheating's never prosper. They never get ahead." And he looks at you and he says, "Daddy, remember 3 weeks ago when you started working on the income taxes? You told Mama that we're probably owe $2,500 this year. And yesterday when you filed them, you told her that due to your creative accounting, you're getting $1,500 back. Wasn't that cheating?" What do you say? Let's move on to scenario number 2. Your 14-year-old daughter comes home and she tells you she's pregnant. You had no idea that she had become sexually active. So you start talking to her about the idea that she should not have sex until she's married. Save that for the marriage. And she looks at you and says, "Dad, you and Mama joke about the fact that your boss goes on these business trips with his secretary. When they come back, there's only one hotel bill. They're both married, but not to each other. Why is it okay for them to engage in sexual activity, but it's not okay for me to hook up with my boyfriend because we love each other?" What do you say? Answers to those questions should definitely be worth $1 million. But let's go to the third scenario. Your 16-year-old son, maybe he's 17, takes a family car to go to a party. He's supposed to be home at 11 o'clock. 11:30, you get the call. No, there's not been an accident, but the police are calling you because the party got a bit raucous, noisy, and they had to close it down. When they got to the place, they found out there was drinking going on, and there were people doing drugs. They didn't arrest the boys at that point in time. They just sent them on home. But when your son started driving home, he was weaving all over the road. So now they had to pick him up for DUI, and you had to come down to the station to get him. You bring him home. You start to lecture to him about the evils of doing drugs and about why you should never drink and drive. And he says to you, "Dad, when you and Mom get home from work, you have 2 or 3 attitude adjustment drinks. Then you have your wine with your meal, and maybe 2 or 3 highballs after dinner. And some nights after that, you decide to go out to the club, to go dancing. And you're driving. Why is it okay for you to drive after 5 or 6 drinks? But it's not okay for me to drive after only 3 beers, because that's all I had. What do you say? Your actions have drowned out any words that you can possibly say at a time like this. However, if you can come up with an answer to that question without building a wall between you and your son or your daughter. Oh, sure, I know many of us want to say, do as I say, not what I do. Excuse me, do as I say, not what I do. You've just built that wall. Gentlemen, you may want to say, ask your mother. Ladies, ask your father. And if you do that, you haven't built that wall just between you and your child. You've built that wall between you and your spouse. So if you can come up with the answer, get it copyrighted, then you should be able to be a millionaire. And Mr. Toastmaster, I have one question for you. Would you please tell us what to say?